Kurt earned his PhD from Penn State in educational psychology. Kurt is director of the Burroughs Center for Testing, and he is a distinguished professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Kurt has been a pioneer in the field of testing and performance assessment, expanding it well beyond traditionally targeted groups. His applied and theoretical contributions have shaped the field. His nominators have called him highly influential, a prolific researcher and writer, and a major contributor to assessment of special populations, specifically persons with disabilities. It's a privilege to present the Alumni Fellow Award to Kurt Geisinger.
I cannot tell you what an honor it is to come here in my 40th year post-Penn State to receive this honor. I must, of course, thank Dean Monk of the College of Education and the Alumni Association. I would also like to thank two people who started me in my life in education. My father, who was a psychologist and professor, and my mother, who was an English teacher and public school librarian, and who spent one summer studying at Penn State. Most of all, however, I would like to thank my wife, Dr. Janet Carlson, who has supported me for more than 30 years and who has helped me at every stage of my adult life and career. Thank you, Janet. I'm going to talk about three things quickly: testing, which is my profession; teaching, which in some ways has been my life's work; and education, which is why we are all here. Most students in the United States hate tests. Yet if one looks at the history of testing, one sees that the introduction of the now hated tests such as the SAT and statewide tests occurred because our country began to see education for the masses rather than for only the privileged few. In fact, Thomas Jefferson said that higher education should only be for the aristocracy by birth and wealth. The original college admissions tests were offered for students from exclusive private high schools and were a week of essay examinations on such subjects as Latin, and where students even needed to travel to the colleges to which they were applying to take the tests. Today, although the SAT and ACT are often seen as barriers to college admissions, they were developed with the goals of opening the doors of the Ivy League and for others, and that students who could profit from education at the large land-grant schools such as Penn State could enter these fine institutions and ultimately contribute to society. These tests are an important component of the meritocracy in the United States. I see them as gates rather than barriers. An examination of the last 50 years reflects our society as taking huge steps towards inclusiveness in realms such as employment and education. In my last year as a doctoral student at Penn State, I directed the study that ultimately brought women to the police force in the city of Philadelphia, against the wishes of the then powerful mayor. Working as a consultant in New York City, I figured ways that African Americans could be hired as police officers in a manner and amount proportioned to that of whites, and also consulted on a physical fitness test so that both males and females could be hired as firefighters, both validly and fairly. I have worked to make tests such as the SAT and the GRE fairer for ethnic minorities, language minorities, and people with disabilities. And I have seen my profession move from being rigidly concerned with treating every individual identically to a point where fairness in testing is a more central concern. That work has been my professional passion for the last 25 years or so, and I'm proud that the zeitgeist of our country has permitted these changes. Now, all of us here have encountered great teachers in our lives. I did certainly at Penn State and elsewhere. In fact, those excellent teachers may be the reason why we're all here. In recent years, I've used my experience in testing to work with accrediting bodies on better ways to assess teacher education in the United States. Assessments of teacher education can be better than they currently are. Secondly, I would like to say also that teachers, I hope we never forget that teachers work really hard, whether they're P-12 or in higher education, and that the kinds of teachers who are so successful do so because of their unique skills, and they do it differently. Finally, as a former vice president for academic affairs at 2 private universities, I can report that we were in near constant capital campaigns just to maintain a balanced budget. I have a feeling President Barron knows about which I speak. I can report that we were in near constant capital campaigns just to do that balanced budget. My wife and I do give to higher education, and I hope that each of you here today who value Penn State and your experience there will do so as well. Just think of giving as something that's a lot more fun than taking a test. Thank you for your kind attention and this great honor.